I think it was just a corporate assignment given to the corporate PR man, Stephen Colbert. You are now going to interview Justin Trudeau. He's a globalist. He's a bit of a loser. He's probably going to be thrown out of office, but he's part of our team. So give him softballs for 15 minutes. And Colbert did. I say again, I don't believe there was actually a single person in that room other than the two of them. Ezra Levant here in Manhattan, New York. I'm on Broadway, and behind me is the Ed Sullivan Theater. It's almost 100 years old. It's got a lot of history, musical history, cultural history. From the 50s to the 70s, the Ed Sullivan Theater was home to the Ed Sullivan Show. And Ed Sullivan, even though he was a slightly nerdy, middle-aged guy, he had access to all the new bands and cultural movements of those raucous years. It was the Ed Sullivan Show that provided the doorway for example, British talent, the British Invasion as it was called, the Rolling Stones and the Beatles, to find a market in America. To go to the Ed Sullivan Theater in the 60s was to have a front row seat on the culture of the day. Here's a little flashback of how that looked.
Richard Rodgers, who's one of America's greatest composers, wanted me to congratulate you and tell the four of you that he is one of your most rabid fans. And that goes for me, too. I'd like to have a fine hand for these guys.
Well, after Ed Sullivan retired, there were some other shows in this iconic building. And then The Late Show with David Letterman took up the space. And whatever else you think of David Letterman, he did have some jokes. The guy was naturally a comedian. He wasn't as important culturally as Ed Sullivan before him, but I'd say he was a man of the left for sure, and he had his foibles, but he was a cultural icon himself in that after he had his show the next day at the water cooler, the next day over coffee, people were often talking about what they saw on it. Well, fast forward to 2024, and the Ed Sullivan Theater is no longer named after Ed Sullivan, but after Stephen Colbert. And Stephen Colbert, who picked up the mantle for the Late Show from David Letterman, I suppose he in his past was a comedian too, but I think it's far more accurate to say for the last 15 years, Stephen Colbert has been a political activist who sometimes tells jokes, as opposed to a comedian who sometimes gets political. This, I think, was at its worst during the corporate COVID lockdowns, where I want to show you an extremely unfunny sketch, one of several, where Stephen Colbert, comedian, late night talk show host, just really thought, no, to heck with it. I'm going to be a Pfizer salesman. They're paying the bills. I'm going to do what it takes. I'm going to dance for the cash. Look at this outrageous video.
The vaccine.
If you think that was a one-off, it wasn't. Here's some more of that.
Get a shot, get a shot, get a vaccine shot, get a shot, get a shot, get a vaccine shot, get a shot, get a shot, get a vaccine shot, get a shot, get a shot, 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 get your vaccine, shot, shot, shot.
The love that Stephen Colbert showed for Anthony Fauci can only be described as fallacial. It was so gross to watch, and so obviously a corporate machine, not an organic place, a theater, a platform for new talent or humor or music. It just wasn't any of that. I don't know who would come to New York City, be on Broadway, where there are dozens of theaters with real shows, musicals, dramas, comedies, and say, no, I don't want to see real talent. I want to go and watch in person a TV show that pumps out pasteurized, homogenized political talking points. Who would come to this amazing city and say, I've got to get myself some tickets to Colbert? I don't even know if they actually have a crowd for all of their interviews. And case in point was Justin Trudeau's visit to the Colbert Show a couple of nights ago. They never actually showed any of the crowd, and the raucous applause by the people who were allegedly there, it sounded awfully like a laugh track and a applause track to me. I have a theory, and I could be wrong, that when Justin Trudeau came on the Colbert Show a couple of nights ago, there was actually no one else in the room. Because had there been someone in the room, there's a good chance there would have been heckling and booing. As you know, Justin Trudeau can't step outside in Canada anywhere, in any province, without being heckled and booed and jeered and sworn at by ordinary people. He is universally detested. One of the reasons he loves going on foreign junkets, including to New York, is to get away from Canadians. But there are probably 250,000 Canadians in New York City, and had they had a studio audience, I'm sure there would have been at least one heckler. Our friend and alumnus Kian Bexty tweeted that he had tickets. He told me afterwards that he was just messing with Trudeau's entourage's head. He didn't actually have a ticket to get in, but that's the kind of thing they would be terrified of. My thesis is no one was there except for the cameraman, Stephen Colbert, and Justin Trudeau. I want to show you some clips of it. It was an astonishingly long interview in 3 chunks. It must have been half the show. And there was nothing particularly interesting about it. No announcements, nothing fresh. It was like it was the warmed over campaign stump speech that Trudeau gave in the recent losing by-elections in Canada. Like I say, the show and the theater has fallen a lot since Ed Sullivan brought the world's most amazing artists to New York. Here's Stephen Colbert, corporate pitchman, pitching corporate softballs to Justin Trudeau, the official globalist-approved candidate. Just listen to this opening part. I mean, what should be the easiest question in the world, sell me on Canada. You tell me, how did Trudeau answer this question? Take a look.
I hear really good things about Canada. Sell me.
Canada's the best country in the world. You see the scenes, like the beautiful mountains, the rivers, the lakes.
The Purple Mountains majesty.
Yeah,
no.
Waves
of rain.
No, that was
From
your
sea
thing.
to shining
yeah.
sea. Is that what you're trying to claim
Actually,
now?
we go coast to coast to coast. We have the Arctic
Oh, you have the
Ocean
Arctic.
as well.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're going toe-to-toe with the Ruskies over all the resources up there.
Yeah, it's a bit of a challenge there, but the
That is,
Canada,
you
you've
just
got me
called Vladimir
totally off
Putin
my-
a bit of a challenge. That is a Canadian understatement if I've ever heard it, sir.
No, the thing is that everyone focuses on the land, but really Canada's about the people. It's a range of people from every possible background who come together, and a little different from the melting pot in the United States where everyone gets to be American.
Yes.
We try to celebrate differences, and people keep their cultures and keep their languages. And like when the Polish Prime Minister came to visit, he was super amazed and pleased that so many of the members of the Polish community continued to speak Polish, even though they've been here for generations. Whereas, everyone sort of becomes American more.
I've heard it described that America is a melting pot and Canada perceives itself as a mosaic.
And more of a mosaic or a tapestry, the differences, not just regional, because you guys have those as well, but differences in stories, differences in perspectives. Every day you meet a Canadian, you get to hear a different approach to life, a different take on the values we have, on the things that we love. It's an amazing country, and I really encourage you to come up and see more than just for the maple syrup and mountains.
Okay, so you mentioned the mountains, and that's good. And then you say you really like the people because they're diverse threads of things, and I actually didn't learn anything about Canada. He didn't speak to any qualities at all. I thought that was a post-national answer. I don't think Trudeau actually knows why he loves Canada. He doesn't know what's special about it, because everything that is special about it is something that he's trying to reduce or forget. He despises our history. Morally, he says we're genocidal, and he's trying to cancel so many aspects of it. And his vast immigration program seeks to change the nature of the country. I think Justin Trudeau can't answer what he loves about Canada, because I don't really think there's anything he loves about Canada other than he's the boss of it. Well, again, Colbert is speaking to his American audience, but again, he's not there to entertain. He's there to sell. Incredibly, the following day, Stephen Colbert had Bill Gates as a guest. I can assure you there was no chance that Bill Gates would be heckled by the crowd or would be asked about his countless visits to Jeffrey Epstein's island. That's because this, again, is a corporate presentation. It's really an ad pretending to be a comedy program. So he asked Justin Trudeau to talk a little bit about really what he's fighting for, what he's passionate about. And the answer was $10 daycare and some free dental work. Take a listen to that.
But like the things that we've managed to do, we've had to work really, really hard at. I mean, universal health care was decades of trying to bring people together and make it happen. We've moved forward on world-leading fight against climate change with a price on pollution. We're moving forward with dental care for low-income Canadians. We're moving forward with $10 a day childcare. These are things that we have to fight for and that are really hard to do.
Trudeau actually mentioned that twice, and I'm thinking, you're in New York City. I don't know how many people watch the Colbert Show. I mean, is it hundreds of thousands? Is it really in the millions? Are there that many people who actually want to hear it? I don't know, but you're in New York City, you've got an international audience, and you're just reheating your talk about, well, we've got dental care for a few people and $10 a day daycare. This is your great point about Canada. He said that a second time when Colbert said something that I think was sort of gross, but you can count on it from the corporate media. He accused Pierre Poilievre of being part of an international wave of far-right fascists. And then he compared Poilievre to Trump. Now, I would take being compared to Trump as a compliment, as would others in the world like Javier Milei or Jair Bolsonaro of Argentina and Brazil. But of course, when Stephen Colbert compares someone to Trump, they mean something completely different. They mean someone who is extraordinarily wealthy and promiscuous and convicted of crimes and has an unpredictable wildness and a rudeness to him. None of those things apply to Pierre Poilievre. And Pierre Poilievre being a fascist, it's an outrageous slur on a Canadian. And Trudeau just sat there, nodded along with it, and then said, oh, we're going to fight fascism by giving out $10 a day daycare. It was the weirdest setup, question, and answer I've heard. Take a look.
Here's one thing, it's something that I'm sure that comes quite clearly when the UN General Assembly is that the far right and flirtations with fascism, at the very least, is rising across the globe. Even in Canada, your Conservative Party leader, your opponent there, has been called Canada's Trump. And I'm sorry about that. But I'm curious why at least some form of nativism or far-right xenophobia might grow in a country even as polite as Canada. Why do you think this is getting a foothold even in your country?
But, see, that phrase, even in Canada, I mean, we're not some magical place of unicorns and rainbows all the time. We got more than our fair share. There's a big argument right now about whether dental care even exists. We've delivered it to 700,000 people across the country, and my opponent is gaslighting us and saying, oh, dental care doesn't even exist yet.
And, this went on for 3 whole segments. It was so boring. It was nothing that the youth of America would be interested in. I don't even think it's a boomer's idea about what the kids would be interested in. I think it was just a corporate assignment given to the corporate PR man, Stephen Colbert. You are now going to interview Justin Trudeau. He's a globalist. He's a bit of a loser. He's probably going to be thrown out of office, but he's part of our team. So give him softballs for 15 minutes. And Colbert did. I say again, I don't believe there was actually a single person in that room other than the 2 of them. Anyhow, mercifully, it was over. I have to say, I watched the video for you so you don't have to go through it yourself. And then I saw some pictures on the internet of Trudeau relaxing a bit after that stressful grilling. And he was hanging out with some transgender transvestites. I'm not sure if this is RuPaul, the trans activist who was on the show right after Justin Trudeau, but Trudeau felt a lot more in his element. He wasn't saying canned answers. He wasn't flummoxed about what does he really like about Canada. How could a prime minister of nearly 10 years not have a smooth answer to that? And it sort of reminded me of how stressed and fake and forced it always seemed between Justin Trudeau and his wife, Sophie. Remember when they were about to get their injections together and he took her hand and she sort of threw his hand away? Remember that awkwardness? Yeah, there was always something iffy about those two. Here's a video that I saved about 5 years ago because I just sort of had a feeling it was going to be deleted. This is a video from the CBC show in Quebec called Tout le monde en parle, which is a really big program in Quebec. And this is before Trudeau was prime minister. He hadn't yet learned to be careful and he hadn't yet reined in some of his excesses. So he's on this show along with Jian Ghomeshi, the sexual predator at the CBC who was a little bit after that, he was drummed out. So you had Jian Ghomeshi, Justin Trudeau, and Sophie Trudeau right there. And Trudeau was in a very strange way. Here's a still image of him kissing one of the men on the program, which is a little unusual to kiss men on the lips. I'm not saying it never happens. I suppose those who watch The Godfather know about the bacio di tutti baci. But Trudeau's not Italian and he's not in the mafia. It's a little weird to kiss a man on the lips, I think. But look at this exchange between Sophie Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, and Jian Ghomeshi.
Because you're very handsome.
Thank you, Justin.
Kiss him.
I think because...
Did you catch that wink at the end? I don't know. There's always been something a little unusual there, but Trudeau is finally unleashed. He's no longer pretending to be married, and Sophie Trudeau no longer has to pretend to hold his hand. So he, I don't know, let off some steam afterwards with RuPaul and friends. I guess my report outside Broadway is that Justin Trudeau came down here. I don't think he came to talk to Americans. I think he came to talk to, I don't know, the 50,000 Canadians who watch the Colbert Show in Canada. But they're not actually young people. They're old people who are curious about what a middle-aged person thinks young people care about. I don't think the answer is Justin Trudeau. Anyways, I'm going to do two more things when I'm in the city. I'm going to go to the United Nations, where Justin Trudeau gave a hollow speech that was remarkably similar to what he did here today. And I'm going to go to try and find Stephen Colbert's audience, the people who were shuffled out of the room when Justin Trudeau had his interview. Again, I'd bet a stack of dollars that Justin Trudeau and Stephen Colbert were alone in the room, and that was just a laugh track, because I do not believe in 2024 there would have been no heckling for Trudeau.
It's the news event of the year. Canada's most controversial premier sits down with Canada's most controversial journalist, and everything is on the table. Come watch Ezra Levant one-on-one with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith in front of a live studio audience in Calgary. Nothing's off limits. Nothing's held back. Questions that would make Justin Trudeau invoke martial law. Answers that will make Stephen Guilbeault pee his pants. You're not going to want to miss this one. But you have to be there, in person, at the Rebel News Live mega conference in Calgary on October the 5th. Tickets are limited, so drop everything and go to rebelnewslive.com right now. Special discounted prices for Patriots and special extra high prices if you're with the CBC. Go to rebelnewslive.com now.